Hey, welcome aboard everybody. Old Guy Jammin' here. Today we are going to prove that there is no cure for gear acquisition syndrome. A while back, and I got to learn not to do this, but a while back I said I was done. I was very happy with all the stuff I had, but I don't know. I don't even understand it myself. Stuff happens, and you end up with a little cash in your pocket, and you decide, gosh dang it. Anyway, Charvel Promo San Dimas. Really super nice guitar, as well as the, you may have seen it in a previous video, the Fender Special Edition Telecaster, which I think is Fender's kind of Gibson. It's their Les Paul. It has a carved maple top, mahogany body and neck. It's got a set neck and a carved top, which are unheard of on Fenders. It has some 2 PAF style humbuckers. Might be the best, most comfortable guitar I own at this point, but oh my gosh, there's no cure for gas. So what do? We just suck it up and we deal with it. All right. Okay, so let's go over how to set up your new Charvel. And then that intro jam was, let's see, it's about the third rendition or version of that thing I'm working on. You guys are lucky because you get the first glimpses of anything I'm doing. So it's not always real polished, but they're always kind of works in progress. Anyway, that was with just the ignitor, nothing else, no pedals, no reverb, no delay, just the ignitor and this cool Charvel. Now the Charvel guitar in itself is a beaut. And see, here I go talking again, gosh darn it. But I had some money in my pocket from some jobs, and so I wanted something different, something good. So I looked at a Reverend King Bolt, which ticked a lot of boxes, but I brought it home, beautiful guitar. But then I started thinking, well, I'd rather have, the pickups weren't quite what I wanted, the whammy bar went out of tune because it wasn't a locking system, and I started processing things I wanted in a guitar, and a kid at work brings his EC1000 in once in a while, kid down at school, and it has the JB59 pickups in it, and they sound really good. It's just a great pairing of pickups. I wanted a solid neck, which you get with the Charvel. It's a 3-piece maple neck with the graphite rods in it, so it's super stable, just like the Wolfgang. Well, the Wolfgang's quarter sawn, but the Jackson neck also has graphite rods in it, and those are some of my undoubtedly best necks. And so I started, and a tremolo system that didn't go out of tune. I wanted all these things, and then I've always loved the color of these blue matte frosts. I've always thought these were just incredible. So I started thinking, and I told the guy that I had to send it back to, I feel like I might as well just buy the Charvel San Dimas. So got a good deal on it, and it's a great guitar. Graphite reinforced neck, maple, 3-piece maple, poplar body, so it's nice and light, but good wood. It has the splittable pickups. Let's take a look at it. Oh, look at that. Oh, it's gorgeous. JB here, 59 here, truss rod adjustment right there, locking tremolo system, push-pull pots, which actually work really better than I remember push-pull pots working. 3-way selector. The middle position is as stratty as anybody would ever want to get. Pickups are hot enough that when you split them, there's not a tremendous amount of volume drop. So it's really a delight to play. But when I got it, everything was way down in the body. It was really down in there. The tremolo was down in the recess all the way, and it just was too much into the guitar. Pickups were down, adjusted all the way down. I couldn't get them any further from the strings, which I wanted to do, and they were already bottomed out. So I needed to do a couple of things. So first thing you always do on one of these is, again, anything from the factory is going to be high. The action's always going to be high. So if you'll take this nut off right here, you take the locking screws off, and then there's 2 screws that secure the nut to the guitar neck. Underneath that, you'll find a series of shims, or at least one shim. This is the one I took out. Come on, camera. Come on, camera. Well, it's too focused in the background. Anyway, this is the shim I took out, and it's about almost 10 thousandths. It's like 8 thousandths, but took that out right away. There's still one more underneath that, and I left it. It was on the high E side, and I just went ahead and left that because small changes over time. You're never going to set up a guitar one time and have it be as good as it's going to get. It's a fallacy of thinking that's the case. You know, you take your guitar to Guitar Center or someplace else, and you have it set up, and you think, okay, I'm done. You're not. It's not that way. It continues to mature and change over time. So you have to be, you have to get to where you're just comfortable working on your own guitars. Now, another really nice thing about this guitar is it's got a rolled neck. And I really didn't understand what rolled edges were, but rolled edges are when the neck, on a typical guitar, the neck comes up and the radius ends at the fingerboard. Fingerboard starts just right off the edge of the neck radius. On a rolled neck, the sides of the neck continue to make that curve before it runs into the fretboard. So the top of this is already turning back in on itself before the fretboard and the frets start. That's what a rolled edge fretboard is. And this thing is not finished. It's unfinished and oiled. It's just, this thing ticks so many boxes. And you can get it down to around $800 for a brand new one, which is good. All right, let's keep going. The action then is starting to get really nice and low where we like it. So we took the nut out here, and we ended up with just a little bit. We're probably under a millimeter right there at the fifth. It could go down a little further, but I'm really happy with the way it's playing. So we'll just leave that alone. There's just a little relief in the neck. So if you hold down here at the first fret and then hold down here at the 15th, that string is now straight. That's our straight edge. So then you press in the middle, and if you can just see it move down a little bit, if you could like slip a piece of paper under it, that's probably pretty good. That's all the more relief you need in a neck. You want the neck as close to straight as possible, but a lot of people will side with just having a little bit of clearance, almost not even measurable. Piece of paper slides under there. You can hear it tap just a little bit. That's the amount of relief you want. If you need more relief, make adjustments to the truss rod. Remember that the strings pull the neck up. The truss rod is there to put tension on to pull the neck back or loosen the neck so it can have more relief in it. All right? But the strings tighten against it this way. The truss rod tightens and pulls the neck back. That's the function of a truss rod. All right, so we got that set up. Now, I did have to shim the neck under here, pull the neck off. Not too big a deal. You don't even have to take the strings off. You can leave them loose, but you undo the 4 screws on the back side, of course, and then you carefully just remove the neck from the neck pocket, being careful to pull straight up so you don't chip any of the sides. It's not a real big deal. It does make me a little nervous, so I do go easy and I go slow. But then I use strips of aluminum can as my shimming material. I gotta get up here and turn my camera back on so I can see what the heck I'm doing. So I use aluminum can. This is 5 thousandths, which allows me to make an estimated guess at what kind of adjustment I'm going to see further down here at the bridge once I shim this up. All right, so this is 5 thousandths material. I put 7 shims in here for about 30 thousandths, 35 thousandths. So you could just, rough it out at 30 thousandths. It's flat here at the neck. The shim is here. That's about 2 inches. So I've got 30 thousandths, 60 thousandths, 80 thousandths. By the time I get down here to the bridge, I'm looking at 100 thousandths or 1/10 of an inch, which is kind of what I wanted to do. Like I said, the bridge was right down inside the recess, and I would like to have it up a little further, and you want it flat. Now, right now, it's not. I have to pull it flat because I want to show you something underneath there, and I had to, so I removed the middle spring. But typically that's going to be right there like that against a hard stop. Okay? Now, pickup height, and about 3/16 with the 59 back here a little lower, because it's actually a pretty hot pickup. But you play with that. 1/8 of an inch might be too close. 3/16 is good if you can take it down to a 1/4 inch, 3/16, 1/4 inch, but then they start thinning out. But perhaps you have a real bassy amp and you want a sound like that. All right, so right now the bridge is sitting up higher than the body, which is nice. I've got plenty of room for everything. I can move stuff up and down, and my hand also sits nicely on top of the bridge. Before it was sunken way down in there, and I couldn't palm mute comfortably. I wanted the strings further up off the body of the guitar. Okay, so we put those, that gave me an estimation of how many shims to put in here, because I needed this up about 1/10 of an inch, so I wanted to come up 100 thousandths, all right? Now, where's that? 1,000 thousandths. 1,000 thousandths. Anyway, you figure it out. Also, we put a D-Tuna on the back right here. No point having a tremolo system without a D-Tuna. These are just fabulous. All right. Now, for this tremolo to work with the D-Tuna, super nice. I mean, you get it tuned up, it's perfect. You want to go into drop D, you just pull that out. The guitar goes to drop D without losing tune. However, to do this, you have to block out your tremolo system. Now, I've done this with a 9/16 nut and a washer. You see the washer is back on the body, so that I kind of have a hammer anvil thing going on here. Now, with the third spring, with the middle spring in, those two would be like that all the time unless I pushed down on the whammy bar. Then I'd have some, wah, 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 brrr, dive bombs. But as is, it's going to sit there just like that. Metal to metal contact. The washer is glued to the body, and the nut is glued just with Gorilla contact adhesive, is glued to the whammy bar block, the tremolo block. All right, so we have metal to metal contact, which is nice. I prefer that over metal to wood, because wood is going to give over time. So putting a washer in there is nice. So 9/16 and that washer allows us to have the bridge exactly parallel to the body, which is how you want a Floyd Rose setup. You want that flat so that the strings come out of those blocks properly. So once that's locked out, then you just put your D-Tuna on, and in this case, with that third spring in and this sitting flat, you see this is almost down on the body. So I ended up, like with my Jackson also, I ended up making a little hole right there with just a little sanding thing in my sanding stone in my Dremel. Took just a few minutes, and then I filled the cavity with some black paint. And when this is then pushed in for standard tuning, and that third spring is in, that D-Tuna sits right down in that pocket, doesn't interfere. Come on, camera, focus. Doesn't interfere with the tuning of the guitar. There it is. Sits right down in that pocket. Nice. It's a nice feature. But D-Tuna's a must. Now, interesting thing on D-Tunas also is that there's a little extra Allen screw on the side of this push-pull button. That's to fine-tune the adjustment. So when you tune your guitar, you need your micro tuner here, fine tuner, almost all the way out is a good place to start. Have these wherever you like them, a few turns in. Tune the whole thing to drop D. Tune it to drop D. Well, standard tuning, but this string is drop D, all right? Then, when you push this in, you need to see if the string comes up to pitch. If it doesn't, if it's flat, you turn this little extra Allen screw in a little bit, and that'll increase the distance that this button pushes that tuner down. If it's sharp, you release some tension on that little screw, and it will allow the tuner to come back up. All right, So that was an interesting thing I just learned about myself. I've never had to fine tune one, but I was having struggles with this one. And it's not in the directions. When you buy a E-Tuna or a D-Tuna from EVH, they don't cover that aspect of setting it up, which I think is really weird. Now, another thing I like to do on these is run a little piece of sandpaper under the fine tuners, because there's some machining debris or burrs left on the bottom of those things, and it can cause little tuning jumps from time to time. And if you get rid of that little burr, then you don't have any slippage. Also, apply some oil to the threads on these and run them up and down a couple of times. Put some oil underneath where they contact the bolts that run through the bridge. A little bit of grease on the D-Tuna and oil in those parts as well. I just use a light machine oil because it doesn't get sticky and collect a lot of dust over time. It's fairly thin. It'll probably have to reapply it, in 6 months or so. Okay, so I think that covers the setup for this guitar. And then, of course, you intonate it. But this one actually came intonated pretty well. And intonation is kind of a whole nother video. All right? So, if I left anything out, give me a shout. If you have any questions, give me a shout. But super nice guitar, super stable. I think what I'm realizing, when you pay more for a guitar, what you're paying for are the pickups and the neck. And some of the hardware too. But I don't mind paying for a real quality neck. I think after having several guitars and some experience, I'm willing to put a bit of money into a neck that is really stable and just going to stay where you put it. This has jumbo frets, which are as big as you'd want to go, but it does allow you to have a fret job without replacing your frets. You can have them leveled and crowned again, possibly even 2 times, depending on how well you like medium jumbos. But really happy with it. Can't say enough. Love the finish. Very happy with it. All right, so get to know your guitar and start getting comfortable working on it. And because you can't just have it set up once, it's a work in progress. The guitar matures, it changes from room to room. As you play it, it changes. You change. And every time you change strings, there's a lot of times there's just some little thing you want to do to it. And after a few months or years, your instrument becomes something that is so comfortable and user-friendly and right on. I mean, the intonation is perfect because you finally took the time to move that block that much further just to make the intonation great. The neck is finally exactly where you want it. So learn to do that stuff yourself. Be willing to make some mistakes, and you'll end up with some instruments that you just love, love, love to play, which is the whole point. All right? Okay, Old Guy Jammin' is out. Enjoy.